Hello everybody and welcome back to another Java FX and the lightweight Java game libraries series. And in this video I'm finally going to fulfill my promise of creating a lightweight Java window and using the OpenGL graphics and sorting out our libraries, because at the moment we will run into some difficulties if we don't do that sorting out. But first I'm going to create a new class, and I'm just going to call that display. Let's call it graphics display. And I'm just going to finish at that, and I'm just going to run straight into the code. So do forgive me if I do go a bit fast, but you can always stop the video and run it again. That's something I can't do right now. So I'm first going to do a private long, and that is going to be the display ID. It's going to be a private static long, and it's going to be display ID. Now I'm just going to leave it at that for now. That's going because that's going to be the pointer that the libraries will use to identify our display. And then we got a private I think graphics display, and that's just going to be our instance, and that is no. And then we are going to just create our function private graphics display like so, and we're just going to leave that one blank just because it's private, it's not going to be accessed. And then we're going to create our public function, our first public function. Oh, sorry, that has to be a no, that's fine. Private static, and it's going to be graphics display. Have I got that right? Yeah. And that's going to just get the display, and it's going to ask us to put in a return statement, add a return statement. So we're just going to return the instance. Before we return the instance, however, I'm just going to do a check just to make sure that that instance does not exist. So if the instance is equal to null, which it is when we start, then we're going to set the instance equals new graphics display. Okay, and that is how we do it in such a way that it can't be accessed through other functions. So there we go. So now we get our display. So we've got to do a couple more things. So we're going to create our display. So I'm just going to call it public void create display. Okay. This one doesn't take in anything. We're going to create two functions. One is init, because we've got to initialize the GL libraries. So the LWJGL. I'm going to create those functions in a minute. You can see they don't exist. And we're going to create the loop wherein we're going to render all our graphics displays stuff. So we're going to just go ahead and create that. And we are going to run into some problems now because we haven't sorted out our libraries yet. But let's just create the private void init. So we've got that private void there, and we are going to create our private void loop. So we've got that one, just so you know what we mean, and we're going to fill those out with the libraries that we've installed. And we're going to start off with the init, and we're just going to do the first one, which will show us the errors that we might have. GLFW init, that's just initializing the GLFW, and you will see that it is underlined red. Change to init, it wants to change it to that, but we don't want to do that because we want to do the or it says create a method. We don't want to create a method because we want to use the libraries, and that is exactly the problem we run into because the libraries are not sorted out yet. So what we need to do is we need to go into our project, right click, and then go into build path and configure build path. And we got to make sure that we're in the libraries tab, not the source tab or the project tab or any other tab. We need to be in the libraries tab. And we need to just take these dependencies and we need to put them inside the module path like so. And then we say apply and close. And that's still not worked, has it? Well, it should have done. Let's just go and import the libraries then that we need. So I think we're just going to import the org LWJGL GLFW. So let's just go in here and see what happens. So we're going to say, oh, pardon me, we're just going to say import, and we want to import org dot, still doesn't recognize it. Let's just have a look and see what I'm doing wrong here. Maybe we will just delete this one for now and we will just write it again, and that's GLFW in it for the initialize. Okay, and if we hover over that, it still hasn't recognized it. We don't want to create a method yet. We want to make sure we get this library sorted. So we're going to do the import, see what happens then, because that that should have definitely the build path, configure build path, that should have sorted out our Maven dependency problem. So apply and close. So import, and we're going to import org dot, sorry, it's going to be static org dot LWJGL dot GLFW dot GLFW dot star, because we're importing all of those. And what does it say here about that? Requires TL2. Okay, so that's gonna have to then be added to our modules. So what we can do is we just go ahead and add to the modules, and there we go. So that's all done now. Okay, so that's all imported. We're gonna do two other imports, and we might as well just do them straight away. We're going to import static org dot, there we go. Now we've got access to all that because we've added it to our modules. I'll show you that in a minute. LWJGL dot, and it's OpenGL dot capital GL 40. We just want that one, and we want to have everything up there, so we put the star in. So we've got all that. Now it's going to ask us the same thing, add required drivers org w to the module information. So we're gonna do that, and then we're going to go to import, and this is org.lwjgl.opengl, that's right, .gl. It's just the second one down. That's it. Those are the imports. You can see that they're underlined. It says remove unused imports because we're not using them. We will use them further on in our creation of our window. If we just go into our modules info, let's double click that again, you can see that it requires all those controls, including the FX. So that's it really. So that's how we import the libraries into our project and add them to our graphics. I mean to our graphics here, to our module information. So now we should be able to go ahead and continue with creating our initialization, and we have access now to our library. So GLFW, and this is window hint, and what we want here, GLFW window hint, that's correct, and on GLFW resizable, and that's going to be glfw false. Okay, and you can see that we do have access to those libraries, and then we have glf w window hint. So you can imagine what the first window hint does. The first window hint I put in there, it makes the resizable false, so you can't resize it, and this is glfw set visible, or just visible, and I'm going to put that as glfw false, because while we're actually initializing it, we don't really need to show the window. We will show the window later, and then we're going to have glfw window, pardon me, get the spelling right, no hint, and this is going to be glfw context. Get this right, context, and this is the version, and this is major. Okay, and that's going to be just set. It needs an integer 3, and I have a problem here because that needs to be actually just a comma. There we go. What have I done? Oh, that needs to be an underline, pardon me, not a comma. So there we go, the comma is over there because that's for the function, and I'm just going to copy that because we're going to need the same for the minor. I'm going to copy, and underneath I'm going to paste it, and we'll just put that there. We're just going to change that to minor, and it's going to stay 3 because later on we're going to use the shaders, which is going to be 3.3. So there we go. Okay, now we need to actually create our little window. So for that we need the window, what did I call it? Display ID, that's right. Display ID, because now we're actually going to give it a pointer, and equals glfw create window, and for that we need to pass in the size. So I'm going to pass in 800, not 8,000, 800 for now, and 600, so that's the height and the width. We're going to give it a title, and it's a string, so I'm just going to call it graphics window for now. We could put in the LWJGL, so we know it's the lightweight Java game libraries window and not our FX window. Okay, and where it will appear in the screen, so we're just going to put 0, 0 for now. So there we go, that's our window, and now we need to do, pardon me, let's just go back here. Now we need to make it current, glfw make context current, context current, and that's going to take in the display ID, so that makes all that current. And then we need to create a GL capability, so it has access to the OpenGL stuff, GL, and it is create, there's an E after that, and capabilities, which is the top one, which is fine, and it's just a function like that. And now we need to show our window, so it's glfw show window, so that will show our display. And which window do we want to show? Well, it's display ID, because it's the pointer for that window. Good, so that's basically just setting up our window, our initialize, so that will create our window for us. And now we need to actually do the rendering, okay? And when we start the loop, I am just going to put a system out so I know what's happening. So sys out, control spacebar, and that gives me the shortcut to that. And in there, I'm just going to say starting the graphics loop, just so that I know what's going on. So a little bit of, make sure that the bugs aren't fixed. And then we're going to create our while loop. So while our GLFW window should close, so the exclamation mark means not, so it's while it's not closed, and we need to pass in our ID of our display ID. So while that window is not closed, we are going to just do some rendering so we can actually see what's going on in our display. So for GL, we're going to do GL clear color. That's just going to clear the colors, and we're going to set a color. So it's RGB. So we're just going to do that. So we're going to have 0. I'm going to make like a nice turquoisey look, 50. Just because it's my wife's favorite color. And we're going to set opacity to 1. So then we've got our clear color set. Yeah, you can play around with that once you see in the display and you're happy that your display is working. You can play around with the color. And now we need to actually clear the color. So now we need to clear the buffer. Sorry. So we just say clear, GL clear, and what we're going to clear is the GL color buffer. And that will just clear the buffer, so we actually do get the color coming through. And then we need to swap the buffers. So because the buffer, you will see one, it will create one and then show one, and then it'll go and create the next one and show it. So that's what's happening every loop. So what we need to do now is we need to swap the buffers, so we actually see the other buffer. GLFW swap buffers. And which buffers do we need to swap? Well, we need to swap the buffers of our display. So it's display ID. So again, it's the pointer for our display that we've created with that long. And then we need to poll events. So GLFW poll events. Good. So that's our whole window display, and of course nothing is going to work because we haven't set it up at all. I mean, we've set it up, but we haven't run it. Now there's something important that we want to know if we want to run it. What I will do is I'm not going to put it in the button today. I will do that as a separate video, the next video. But what I will do is here in the public static void main, I am just going to create a new thread. And I have to say that because with the new the Java FX runs on the main thread, and if you run the graphics display we just created here, it runs on the main thread as well. So it's not really going to cancel. It's not really going to work together as one thread. We're going to run into huge problems. So the graphics display that we've created, we need to actually run on its own thread, and we're going to do a lambda expression for that. Okay, so it's very simple, runnable, and we need to call it something. So graphics window, just to be like that, and we're going to say that that is a runnable program, and this is how you do a lambda expression. Pardon me, that was completely wrong. Let's just go back and do it properly. Oh, it's that one and this one. Okay, and then that one, and then you'll see that it's underlined there with a as a mistake, but we just need to add that. And then in order to run our loop, I'm just going to say new thread and that is going to be our graphics window. Okay, and it is just going to be dot start. It's as simple as that. Now it's going to run this thread until we close something. So what we're going to run, we are just going to say in there graphics display, yeah, because that's our graphics display. Oh, pardon me. dot, and we want to get the dot get class, and then say dot create display. So I don't know if you really understand. If you're new to Java, this is probably not something that you will understand, but if you do it, I am quite sure that it's going to work. So basically, this is the thread we've created, and it will run eventually, and I'm running it before the launch, and that's for the whole reason why I do that, so both windows will appear. If you run it after the launch, your JavaFX window is running on the main thread, as I said. So when you close that window, then this thread will run. So that's the reason why I started before, because this thread will start to run, it'll take off and run, and then it'll launch the JavaFX windows. And that's quite important to know. So let's try this and see what happens. I'm just going to go down here to make sure that I do the right one, and I'm going to right click on there, run as Java application. I'm going to click OK, and this is the moment we've been waiting for. There we go. So there you go. We've got both windows. We've got our graphics window, LWJGL, which we've created, and we've got our Java FX window here, and they're both running at the same time. And that's because we put them on a thread, and you can see that they're two different threads, because if I click on this one goes gray. If I click on that one, this one becomes active. And wow, that was a journey and a half, that one. I hope you enjoyed it. I don't really cover up my mistakes if I can, because it's useful for people to see when a programmer makes mistakes and how he sorts them out, because that's basically what programming is all about. You know, it's a little bit like engineering. Create one fix one problem, and you create a few more. You go and fix them. Who knows what we'll create next time. So that is our graphics window, and in the next video I am going to make it so that we click this button then, and then this window will pop up. So yeah, I hope that was useful. I hope you enjoyed that, and I wish you a happy coding.